Okay, well,
Welcome, Steve.
thank you so much. Thank you for the invitation. I'm honored, and thank you to everyone who showed up. And so many of you I have a personal relationship with, and I'm honored that you're here. And my gratitude extends farther than you can imagine. All right. So when I was putting poems together for this, which it's not something I do, so we'll see how it goes. Um, I noticed that most of the poems, at least the majority of the poems that I chose, are based on experience. I guess I tend to write based on direct experience. Sometimes I move somewhere else with it, but it tends to be on direct experience. And that was true of the poem that got that wonderful recognition in the fall contest for new poets. So I'm going to start with that one because it's a poem that's one of my favorites, partly because of the experience, which is that several years ago, I was 9 or 10 miles up a lone canyon off of the nearest highway in Southern Oregon, and I came upon an old graveyard that had been long abandoned. It was overgrown and leaves, and it was disheveled everywhere. And I found this little grave, and it was a boy's grave. And I was moved by it. I was touched by it. And so out of that came a poem. The beginning of the poem is actually the wording that's on the tombstone. So this is how it reads. I hope it's still there. In memory of George William Springer, born October 1st, 1854, died August 1st, 1863. Cause of his death, a rattlesnake bite. The stone had long ago leaned back to rest against the trunk of the old madrona, its golden canopy on high branches arching over a grave the size of a child's bed. Planted at the burial, it would have been a sapling keen for life as a 9-year-old boy. From grief, that tree would grow past those who buried him, its roots reaching deep beneath the worn white picket plot to hold him far beyond memory or ache for a boy in his 9th summer taken by a snake bite. And I guess this is kind of a corollary to that. This is a poem about the birth of our son, Kai, who's now 27 years old, and he was born 3 months premature. And it was an incredible journey. And I tried to capture some of it with this poem called Special Delivery. Yes. She woke me at 5 a.m. in early June. We have to go to the hospital. I'm bleeding. As we dressed in a dark rush, she paused and looked at me. You know, this means we'll probably lose the baby. A long day of instruments and evaluations. Finally, the doctor said she needed the Dornbecker an hour away if there was to be a chance. They rolled her through bright, white-lit hallways, and I followed, stunned, fumbling, and watched her disappear out the door into uncertainty. Then a nurse at my side looked deep into my eyes and said, when he is taller than you will tell him this story. I drove through wet black roads trying to find the wake of the ambulance. 9 days later, he was born at 5 a.m. He was like a little green peach falling into the arms of white-gowned gardening angels and a greenhouse row of plexiglass wombs, raised beds where they grow the unripe ones. Each little preemie peach transplanted, wired, tubed, bathing in the stark light of monitors, pulsing, spiking, beeping. And all the while the gardening angels attended him. They washed and fed him, talked and cooed him, cuddled and rocked him as naturally as spirit breathes life to body. Through the long summer months, we watched and worried, and the gardening angels would turn to us and say, patience and love grow our babies here. And in the late summer homecoming, in a corner of the front yard, we three were met by a glorious new sunflower, bursting yellow, a volunteer announcing his arrival. It was taller than I. This was at the Portland Art Museum maybe 20 years ago, and I tried to capture it as well as I could remember it. No embellishment in this poem at all. At the Remington Russell exhibit. just the old woman and me, taking in the painting and sculpture. The pairing of these artists is billed as the Old West expressed in romanticism and realism. So perhaps it's somehow appropriate. This old woman and I stand as strangers, silent before some landscape, either romantic or real, and she begins to tell me about marriage. A good marriage, she says, is like a well-cut coat formed from the hand of a master tailor. A good marriage has proper seam allowance and has split seams as well. A good marriage is hand-serged and open-stitched. What's unseen, she says, is what holds it together. In a good marriage, both sides give 75%, she says. I'm really trying to hold together the odd weave of this woman's wisdom, but when she says that as much engineering goes into a custom coat as into a suspension bridge, I feel discouraged. Look at Walter Cronkite's suit, she says. Then she sighs, surrounded by bronze and oils. These days, one size fits all, she says, turning away. And this was in the back part of the UCLA campus on a beautiful summer afternoon. Ant. On a lazy, lush, grassy slope, late sun slanting, the small death of an afternoon. I try a second reading of a poem I don't understand, but think I should. Tragedy needs a proper framing, is the first line of the poem. But on this reading, a clump of letters comes alive in a word, a tiny black ant. It ambles down into the space between lines, left toward the binding, against the force of language forward. I mean to flick it away with a finger, casually, but then a sudden smear, and a tiny life erased. I watch the sun fall softly on what remains, a black blot framed between two stanzas. Below the line, for its sadness has no hands, no face. And that was a poem by Shejla Mewash, if I'm pronouncing his name anywhere near correctly, and I still don't understand it, but I'm grateful for him being a collaborator on the poem. This is one that began with an observation and turned into an embellishment. October Sunday. A woman plucks an apple from a bin and ponders. A man gazing beyond the zucchini glimpses her surrounded by vegetable love, apples, tomatoes, plums, grapes, the green beans a serpentine orgy, and he wants to roll himself up into a ball flung from the sun into her palms. Her long fingers slide along the sides of a golden pear, thumb hidden, palm inward. She lays the fruit delicately down and moves on. This is the pear that he will pick as the sun in the late morning sky begins its slow descent, the gradual fading of the day, and a longer night awaiting, where he will sleep, naked, under covers, in his dreams, alone. And this was the other poem that won nice recognition at the contest this fall. And this simply began as my gazing down the end of a very dark street that ends in a cul-de-sac, just about 2 blocks from our house. And where it went from there, I don't know why, but this is what the poem is. Elegy. Somewhere at the last light, they saw the rain held in a street lamp's aura. And farther down a darker street, puddles caught the rippling of stars. Once they were the saints of pre-dawn days, chasing heaven in the night with cries, like a promise of loss in their eyes the lost promise of love. Once there was a heaven in the night when moonlight shed her skirt to dance on sand, and something that they thought would last chased them green and dying into the past. This was looking, well, the poem will tell you, standing on a front porch, and I look across the way, and this is what happens. So much and no more. Well, I should preface this. This is alluding to William Carlos Williams' famous poem, The Red Wheelbarrow. So much depends on a red wheelbarrow glazed with rainwater beside the white chicken. So much and no more. Following a morning summer shower, I stepped onto the porch and saw across the way a red wheelbarrow glistening in a glaze of rainwater. Beside it was a white chicken. Then I watched a black chicken wander from behind the neighbor's house to join the white chicken. The white chicken flurried its feathers and pecked at the black. Oh, I thought, so much must depend on this. But what? And how much is so much? Can so much be too much? Not enough? Then a phone call drew me back into the house. When I returned later to the porch, the chickens were gone. The wheelbarrow had dried to a rust red. The sun was high overhead, and the light of common day offered nothing more uncommon. I turned back to the routines of life and gave it all no more thought. And this is synthesizing parts of two poems by Robert Frost that I'm sure you know, Stopping by a Snowy Evening and The Road Less Taken. I found ways to merge lines in those two poems that made sense to me. I'm telling this with a sigh, ages and ages hence. All roads converge in deep, dark, lovely woods. At the end of the day, it's not which way, but promises I did or did not keep that will have made all the difference. Three love poems for my wife, Robin. Next September, we'll be here together 40 years. And this was on the occasion of our 7th anniversary. If our marriage were a day, it would have begun once upon a summer night of dream-filled blossoms and moments of purest blue silver as warm winds aloft tumbled us together. And we could only be now awakening to the scent of roses and rain, and our eyes would be opening to opening eyes, reflecting still our own deep light. As deeper into the fragrant mystery of marriage these pupils gaze, each one awakening an other into ever truer dreams. Broken bones. She said it felt strange without makeup, without jewelry, her face completely bare. You have such beautiful hair, said the nurse, wheeling her with her fractured foot to surgery. In the waiting room, he awaited her return from that little ether death back into his care. We all go under and come out somewhere cut and scarred. We stumble toward our healing and hold each other, strong foot first, then the weak. We care for so much more than we can know, all of us in radiant beauty and broken bones. Together we go where love urges us to go. Amber Moon. After lovemaking comes the little death and the almost waking to each other's breathing, as we turn entwined in curving silver sheets to slip deeper into the arms of sleep. And the amber moon, cupped in high branches, waits to take us sailing over illumined meadows to dawn. And I'm not giving up on this relationship when one of us passes on, because I'm hoping and expecting that we're gonna do it again. So this is the only poem that takes place in the future. To my next incarnation. Welcome back to your senses. Lucky you. You get to fall in love all over again for the first time. Another spring will bring another sweet seduction in which you will find yourself on a fragrance of roses floating to a tavern where one who is no stranger awaits you, where romance is reborn in the quiver and sting of a glance. One sip of wine leads to another and another. Then that spinning, giddy moment when you fall helpless back into the arms of your beloved, that's when the dance begins anew. Let's hope so. Pocket wares. At the end of day, you lay out the pocket wares of your life. What you have worn has worn you. And now you empty yourself of a watch, a wallet, a coin, a key, your identity. Mornings we assume our weights and trudge off. When night descends, pushing down the light, we lighten. We weigh in with what we have to bear. We weigh out, worn by what was born. This one's a bit dark, but there's a place for this too. Father Anthony, 1965. Think Bela Lugosi and Coke bottle glasses. Black hair slicked back on a round skull. Trade black cape for black cassock. Accent to thick Lithuanian, whispering pornography in the dark confessional. Guttural questions to 12-year-old boys. Altar boys. Some Saturdays he'd take 4 or 5 of us to swim at Huntington Beach, and later in the afternoon to the small enclosed backyard of a house nearby, where we were allowed inside only one at a time, to shed our trunks and rinse the salt and sand while the rest ate chips and sipped cola on the grass. Once as I showered, I saw through the steamy glass a vague distortion approaching. When he opened the door, I stood motionless, the water spraying me like hot needles. He looked down my torso. Then he pointed to soap on a rope and said, "Don't you like it? It was a gift to me." And he pressed that pointed finger low against my belly and slowly traced the line across my abdomen between red flesh and white. He said, "You are burned." And he left. He never touched me again. We were all holy innocents, some not so lucky as I. Like my pal Johnny, who was visited one night in his room at a sleepover. Sins of the father were visited on sons in that house. Secrets were born cloaked in guilt and shame. And one day he was suddenly gone, off to another parish, and I suppose a fresh start at unholy communions. I imagine him meeting a new group of boys ripe for the altar, looking them over through those thick lenses. I imagine him gesturing a blessing with the sign of his cross and his low whisper, "Predator, victim, victim, predator. Let us pray." Doing here. The day the world ran out of metaphors, I mean literally ran out of metaphors, words fell hard onto sidewalks like nothing. The day all the metaphors died, the light changed strangely, and all the poems scattered as if looking for a room with no walls. There were advantages. For example, no more hearts were broken. On the other hand, there was no more flipping head over heels in love either. No more could this overlay that. The sun and moon were just the sun and moon. Little stars could not twinkle like diamonds. They were just muted lights against the black sky. There was no more standing under things, almost knowing things to be what they weren't, then somehow were. The day the earth ran out of metaphors, all our thoughts became confused, as if every roadmap has lost its lines and shapes and colors, as if there had ever been such roadmaps. The day we ran out of metaphors, we wanted to look for them in secondhand stores, but there were no more secondhands. No more vehicle left to somehow drive the immutable mysteries of being. We were speechless, literally. And we're coming upon solstice in 2 weeks, something like that. So here's my little short solstice poem. Be wakeful when the old night meets the new light. Don't miss those wise ones when they knock on a door of your heart, seeking the baby you have been gifted with, who has always been within you, who needs awakening year after year with renewed gifts of faith, hope, and love, to be born again on your journey to rebirth. Getting pretty close to out of time here. Let's see what we want to do here. I lost my sister some years ago, my middle sister, and a while back this poem came to me. First Friday, Silverton, December 2017. In a packed, loud tavern, we saw Carl at a table with friends. It had been a while, and he ribbed me about my graying whiskers as we shouted above the clamor of the crowd. When he said, "How old would Kathy be?" all the babble seemed to fade into a muted backdrop. I told him she was 4 years younger than I. He asked how long it had been. We said 10 years. And my wife, Robin, must have had the same piercing flash of finding Kathy that afternoon alone in the dark trailer, curled in a blanket on the couch, shivering, amber yellow. She was aware enough to know us there, so maybe she too later overheard the EMT joke about her skin color while loading the gurney. That night in the ICU room, I laid my palm on her heart, my lips to her ear, whispering the family names to lighten the passage until her labored breathing finally eased itself into stillness. Once, when we were little kids playing at dusk in the front yard, we watched a row of street lamps come alive with light along the sidewalk, and I pointed to the one we stood under, illuminating us in its soft amber glow. And I said, "Look, the fairies have returned to their homes." I think I'll stop with that. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Steve. What a wonderful reading.
Thank you.
Anne, M.N. Reed holds a doctorate in theater arts performance studies. Various literary arts journals are home to Anne's poems. Antithesis, Azure, Burning Wood, Black Mountain Press, Eastern Iowa Review, Parabola, Proverse, Hong Kong, Psychological Perspectives, and The Poeming Pigeon. Finishing Line Press published her chapbook, Making Oxygen, Remaining Inside This Pure Hollow Note. Her awards include Halcyon Black Mountain Press, 64 Best Poets of 2018, Lazuli Literary Arts Group 2018, Azure Poetry First Place, OPA Contest 2021 Honorable Mention. And please introduce the book that you're reading from. And sorry, I didn't get it into your bio.
Oh, that's okay. Thank you, Dale. It's just lovely to be with you, and I am grateful to be here and grateful to be joining all of you wonderful poets and listening to Steve's poetry and listening to your poetry after I read. Okay. I'll be reading from Ekphrastics and Eccentricities, published by Kelsey Books. First, I need to define what I mean by eccentricities. And the poemed eccentricities are synchronicities. They occur because the research collaborators, the psychiatrist Carl Gustav Jung and the quantum physicist Wolfgang Pauli, learned that the lively universe wants to create relationships with Earth and fulfill Earth's creatures and their deep longings. Such fulfillment is not unintentional and involuntary as are coincidences, but voluntary and intentional. Synchronicities may occur in what William Stafford called the realm where miracles happen, a realm that introduces his book of poems, The Way It Is. I'm sorry, we've had a volcano eruption here in Costa Rica, and my sinuses are all clogged and my throat's clogged with ash. So I'll do it the best I can here. Until I read William Stafford's poems and until I attended Kim Stafford's seminar, Writing in the Spirit of William Stafford, I had never realized how much of life is full of miracles. From this realization, the following poem, Lahar, 1989, emerged concerning my experience in Wales, when British Nazism had troubled Dylan Thomas and was still suppressing and oppressing many Welsh people and their longings. The poem ends with a new version of the Old Testament myth of Solomon and the chalk circle of justice. Accordingly, the child would belong to the true mother who lets go. Lahar, 1989. Lahar, laughing, Lahar, a lark caught in your throat. Nature dreaming through heart-hungry screams of gulls. Laharn, hovered Laharn, a suppliant upon the beach, a voice scattering light through dark waves. Dream naturing over rocks, always through the teeth, trickling up and out until River Aber Aron speaks. Laharn, who has known, still knows vicious minutes, hours. The dove haunts away a shaped and sharpened tongue, divests death of magical Larn. Larn burning on Dullin's lips, his soulless sandpiper scoping the beach, a hand outstretched between dry bones ground to yellow dust and fertile mountains. Laharn, where we discover more sandpipers and suppliants winding down now, sea shaken in salmon sun, with Dylan with whom we run. Laharn, where his song is a burning crested act kissed into emerald, Rhiannon riding spring moonlish slow, a breath on breath of indigo. Laharn, green Cymraeg cheating time, where the English demon lurks in a country bus buzzing 60 around hairpin turns. Laharn, where history is memory, a school of Welsh knots. The Mabinogion on wooden spoons, carved by Hoyer Davies of the Strand. Memory of a time everyone sang a song Cymraeg, then memory of Welsh known again as the foreigner's language. Mother English vying with Mother Cymraeg, while children cry from a chalked circle upon the floor. For if we could, we'd fly away, fly away. For if we could, we'd fly. Britain rejected British Nazism, let go, and the children thrived. To my Welsh, Scottish, and German Jewish heritage, my father added the Irish-English temperament. And as an architect, served the early Irish Mayo medical community, a dream emergent from the Franciscan Mother Alfred Mose after a tornado. Excuse me. After a tornado raged and leveled the city of Rochester, Minnesota. The dream from that realm where miracles can happen initiated her partnership with the Doctors Mayo in a community where diversity, 50% international, 50% local, offered the greatest vitality and well-being of each member. During that time, I was becoming a Shakespeare scholar and a dramaturge. I recognized how much I resembled Shakespeare's Viola of Twelfth Night, who knew that she would be all of her father's sons and all of the daughters too. 12th night ends the 12 days of Christmas and we move away. We remove masks to become who we truly are. And my research evolved into the poem Kindly Cautioned and Knowing. Kindly cautioned and knowing I would be all of my father's sons and all of the daughters too. I wondered what it would feel like to be the favored firstborn. From dream edges, I see him drift away from himself, disappear into a gray world, into 4-lane highways, paved city streets, through revolving glass doors, a man with a gun either behind or before him, leading his escape. His escape into steel and poured concrete, up a ghostly elevator with ground lightning signals into windowless rooms, there to spend his narrowing days, sometimes nights, sending bits, bytes, megabytes, without ever communicating the feelings of words. And all because of a glittering dark desire to be noteworthy. What privileged firstborns need to become the apple of their father's egos, to relinquish their call, their life purpose. In this case, the accomplished musician he could be, perhaps facing poverty, but never failure. Next door, Gaberte's replicated bronze doors open Mayo's hospitable wings to sun, rain, patients, physicians, frescoes abounding. In the vaulted heaven above, Athena rests and arrests us upon her splendid shield. The seeing place, a lesson in civic mindfulness commences. The surgeon plies his benevolent scalpel, while Isis gathers her dismembered son. Inspiration raises whimsy's cloud on the shoulder of Pegasus, and the cloud beneath his hoof claps for all prodigals becoming eccentrics. Breaking open like crystalline geodes, the green shades of their emerald dreams. And I realize how difficult it is to transform desire for another's esteem into desire for bliss. Realize how this firstborn cannot embrace what is truly his until he finishes loathing his life. Part 2, so what is it like to be the estranged, evicted prodigal? Completing my dissertation devoted to Shakespeare's biopoetics, lightning flashes and thunder growls through wall-to-wall, floor-to-ceiling windows. I overhear, but I don't want to be a dentist, Dad. His clear voice carries over the phone through the open apartment next door. More lightning leaps to inspire thunder's bellows. A deluge ensues, filling the silence, holding the father's rage. I'm going to be a concert pianist. More lightning speaks blessing, more thundering kettle drums cover the father's response. Altercation continues. A Norwegian conservatory has already given me a place. Dr. Balk has given me a recommendation. My aunt gave me money. Lightning, thunder, and rain applaud the wise. Bye for now, Dad. Talk with you in Norway. I congratulate him across the threshold. David White, sweet darkness comes to mind, whispering whatever or whomever doesn't make you come alive is too small for you. My next research question was, do plants dream? And if so, would that be a budding synchronicity to fulfill a longing? The following poems indicate that because they are sentient beings with nonverbal thoughts and feelings, they may well dream. And the dreams may engage their involving through their hollow growing points. What I didn't know was that, and what I discovered was what Dr. Lauren Watson Roberts discovered. He made this photo from an electron microscope slide that became the book cover of his book. And I wrote about it. Who'd have dreamed the hollow growing point of a plant cell could shape a Celtic cross? The soul's wee doors inviting us into the other world. So planting cosmos and dandelions, dream Ray Bradbury evolved. Even now, Cosmos remembers her first garden, the flaming head of Andromeda cascading over the navel, the rose of Pegasus, remembers her seed life, golden proportioned cosmic heartbeats, remembers her roots anchoring into heaven's rich earth, remembers love's Venus water, remembers gregarious star chat encouraging her blooming, remembers radiant light awakening the sword of her stem, piercing the dark with life's green light. Remembers the green wing power of her leaves, the universe held by her calyx, the epiphany, Hana, blooming, a new nebula, realizing herself. What of Martin Rees's "The universe does not exist until I observe it"? What of Albert Einstein's "I like to think there's a moon even when I'm not looking at it"? What of John Bell's "What if"? An always aware finger, maybe the finger of God, points everywhere, always there and here and now again here. Cosmos incarnate feels the proper touch. The hummingbird hungry for her nectar. The bee bathing in her fragrance, collecting her medicine, loves the one aware of her, remembers the whole web of life, her role to emit beauty, wonders, what is your role in the web of life? And then I fell in love with Ray Bradbury's novel Dandelion, Dandelion Stream. So actually it's called Dandelion Wine. So this is Dandelion Stream, Ray Bradbury. That the Dentaleon is a gold, goodness. That the Dentaleon is golden means it is as precious as the metal, unsurpassingly rich in sunshine, water, and green sugar, homemade. That the Dentaleon floods the world means it is as prolific as Bradbury, brimming over with gratitude and creative productivity. That dandelions drip off lawns onto streets and tap softly at cellar windows means they long to make new acquaintance. That dandelions agitate means they shake, shiver, and dance in Dionysian frenzy, ecstatic to be alive and awake. That dandelions dazzle and glitter with molten sun means the sun hugs them and kisses them until they shine and molt like beautiful feathers from a most genial bird. That dandelions are pride of lions mean they are a family of strength and noblesse oblige. Offering their roots for tea, their stems and leaves for sweet summer salad, and their flowers for medicinal wine. That they burn a hole in your retina when you stare too long means they are the sun-sensitive children capable of giving you a black hole in the space experience, lest we become too arrogant. That dandelions are summer on the tongue means their language is ours for the savoring, for the remembering of all the memories and moments we hold dear. An ekphrastic poem emerged from the art of Alexander Agafonov, an artist to whom I was introduced by his daughter, one of my trilingual IB candidates, while I was teaching and learning in Kyiv. That was when Yulia Tymoshenko was president. And this poem is Anima et Animus, part 1. You enter your life to bring life oh my goodness. My throat keeps blocking my words. You enter your life to bring to life the mystery miracle play you dream, shape, and reshape. You cross borders on unfledged wings, balancing with gravity on stilts, feeling the world atilt with quantum carnival leaps. You explore painting's capacity to evoke sublime spirit and sculpting's capacity to evoke Pan's ridiculous reclining, balancing and floating on the back of a wild running boar. All this fettered, unfettered play with balance because you had learned to fall. First from an apple tree, landing at Hannah, the healer's feet, that so-called witch whose candle in her forest cottage window promised unbidden to Menos, where your carnival dreams thrived in Pan's otherworldly time to unfurl, flying from your hand an angel, balancing on her invisible trapeze while holding her candle to infuse day's light with a glowing promise to deliver skies heaven. You return her winged waves with your
Oh,
breath
wonderful.
waves.
Thank you.
Grab this guy your way.
Great.
Unburdening Kiev's spirit from protected informing, feral dog packs in Chernobyl. Your silent music shifts too, releasing Mary Sophia, the civil disobedient of her time, balancing feminine spirit, undarkened by shadow, rising from new inner light. Her eyes touched by the Mona Lisas, her smile a wisp of Shakespeare's Titania. No, the path of true love never did run smooth, as from her accepted lily drops Kiev's new Byzantium. Part 2. Tender green sprouts begin to overwhelm the disarray. Rubble, burnt blackened wood, discarded newspapers, ashes, dust, while onion domes shine and bloom from sunlight's wands, from which your golden thread weaves a robe of many vibrant colors, welcoming back the lost communion into your carnival of saints. All betrayed by protected surveillance. One a brother whose sister had informed against him. One a mother whose daughter had informed against her. And one a true knight who, masticated by a fierce wild Doberman, had hugged miracles between teeth. Does the betrayed brother return, disguised in harlequin's patched suit, shimmering from forest magic's candle through transformation's window? Does the broken-hearted mother return, a new Madonna, learning beauty's circumference by balancing mandolin with butterfly atop her head? Her gaze rounding to behold the child born of Gabriel's accepted message, whose lily-shaped hand entrusts a messenger pigeon with his advice. The enemy needs your love. Does your true knight morph into Pan, protector of wild and feral animals, now fluting spellbinding music? Come away, I'm alive. Come away, do not take walking for granted. Followed by new lovers, anima et animus, who step out on point to dance their pas de deux. You too take nothing for granted as you exhale back the halos of your people, joining the couple bearing the new communion of fruit, flowers, and wine, from which your alchemy whirls vibrant oranges, ambers, honeygolds, greens, blue burning pascal flames until you shine. And I want to close with a reference to William Stafford's poem, Waking Up to a New World Brushed by a Dog's Deep Love. I just read this poem at the library and then jumped on the bus to ride home when the following synchronicity unfolded. It felt only right that the dog, who often reads us better than we read ourselves, narrates. So here's to begin again. With the earlier title, She Beholds Me, as recorded for and published by Pause for Poetry. To begin again. She beholds me, jet-back lab, bearing forehead wrinkles in time. Bewildered am I? I lift one eyelid, sit for my portrait, then rest my head on my blind love's knee, feel love's reading hand. Assure me that all is well. Bus rides can be tough, we sit up front. She across from us asking, have you read William Stafford's poems? My love nods, yes, I've read some. Have you read Waking to a New World Brushed by a Dog's Deep Love? No. Would you like to hear it? We accept. Near your face, a breath, your dog, its day. Those dark receiver wells remind us to listen. We are responsible for love's life. The poem doesn't end, its day. Only the bus briefly stops. The world, love brushed, returns whole and new. I guide my love through our familiar made strange neighborhood, sense his keen reading hand on my harness while we wonder why. How could we be so blessed, so bewitched, so bewildered? Thank you. Sorry
Thank you
about
so much, Anne.
Frankie voice.
What a lot of words for thought. I've got your book and I'm about 1/3 through it, so I can't wait to read the rest. Thank you so much. Who would like to read in our open mic? If you would like to read, down here under the reactions button, there's a raised hand. You can raise your hand. I see some of you have found it. And I may ask you, even if you don't raise your hand, because I'd love to hear all of you read. It looks like Peter Gordon found his raised hand first. So Peter, would you like to read?
Yes, Dale, thank you. I would like to read. I think this is the first time I ever got the hand up first. So I'm going to read a poem that, well, I thought was really great the first time I wrote it, but then I kept sending it to various publications and they kept saying, no, we don't want this. So I took another look at it and
Yeah.
I have revised it and I like it better now. So maybe they knew what they were talking about. This is called 2 Scoops Chocolate Ice Cream, Chocolate Sprinkles, Chocolate Sauce. 2 Scoops Chocolate Ice Cream, Chocolate Sprinkles, Chocolate Sauce was Jim's order every time we hung out at Ashley's Ice Cream after a performance, concert, or dinner. His personal best? 3 minutes, 34 seconds to scarf the whole sundae. Like in so many other things, I couldn't match him. That much chocolate, too intense for me. But that was Jim. He always tasted life in fullness. Dessert first, sing loud as you can while staying on pitch, support friends, family fiercely. No one performed a patter song like him, as if Gilbert and Sullivan wrote those tongue twisters just so Jim could sing them. He tried to teach me, banging rhythm on empty ice cream containers. I could not wrap tongue and teeth around those fast, long lines, yet that constant practice led me to find my own song. Stayed in touch after college, but as families grew, it was hard to tend friendship's hearth. Thought we had plenty of time to reunite for music and ice cream someday. 20 years ago, pancreatic cancer progressed quickly to stage 4, consuming Jim from inside so fiercely he was already in palliative care when I heard. We hadn't talked in forever, and now we never would, forever. I sent a get well email I know he never saw. 1 year later, my turn. I was lucky. Only stage 2, Dr. Mancuso said. Surgeons moved fast, operated 2 days after diagnosis. No need for radiation. Clean CAT scans so far. But every day since, I wonder, why did Jim die and I live? I won't know that answer in this life, but I do know one thing. After doctors declared me cancer-free, I drove straight to Kelly's Homemade Ice Cream, ordered 2 scoops chocolate, chocolate sprinkles, chocolate sauce, and I ate all of it.
Thank you so much, Peter. I'm so glad you survived.
Yes,
Jade.
thank you. I am too so far.
Yeah, sounds good. Jade, would you like to read?
Yes, I really enjoyed the guest poets today enormously. 2 very different voices and sensitive, deep, provocative, both poets. Thank you. I have 2 poems. The first one here is for the poets. It's just called The Poets. I've been meeting with fringe dwellers all my life. Wild cats who wander off the trail, deep into the forest. We meet randomly, travel a while with each other, then go our own way, making new paths, threading new thoughts across the undergrowth, weaving through community after community, carrying stories from one to the next. Our wrinkled old faces, replacement knees, and wizened lips are no indication of what we carry. Seers eternal, merely speaking for a moment. Now in this time, we reach silently for each other, remembering we are deep earth wanderers. And the second one is one I've been working on for a little while. It's a bit of self-reflection. It's called The Great Winter. This is indeed the great winter of my soul, of my being, of my time on this earth. Too long a time, too short as well, too many lives in one. Even as I sit here, many loved ones no longer here, lost in the folds of difficult lives. This great winter runs deep through stillness, contemplation, stopping, forced to stop, choosing to stop, resting, forced to rest, wisdom in deciding to rest. There's no depth like it. I am a fisherwoman, waiting at the edge for my pole to bend with a thought or a word. Ah, there it is, wriggling resentfully, having been fished from its deep, beyond where thoughts of winter do lie. The word change still attached to my hook, lying still gasping for air, begging to be thrown back in. I can't. I know this time I must accept what I keep attracting to my line. Only from these deep places can it come, the secret whisper or scream, beyond the landscape, the thunder grey sky rumbling, posing as the real, dressed up by the trees and birds. Thanks.
Lovely, Jade. Thank you so much. I know it's a metaphor, but is that a fishing poem? Is that your fishing poem? I know of an anthology that needs fishing poems.
I guess it's a fishing poem. I guess I'm fishing for all sorts of things with it. Yeah, it could be called a fishing poem in a certain dimension, absolutely.
Yes. Dan, would you like to read?
Surely, thank you. Oddly enough, this poem, which I think I read on this venue about 3 years ago, but I felt like reading again, is a fishing poem. Following up on Jade, I didn't mean to steal your thunder, but it's a little bit different. I'm going to give myself some more light here. That's better. How to catch a poem. Put your fishing clothes on. Sit beside the pond of your mind. Take a breath, then another. Lift your rod and cast. Wait. Look away. Pay no attention because fish know you are thinking about them and become wary. While not looking, picture all the fish in your pond, passing, jumping, waving their tails. Skinny fish, fat fish, long fish, short fish, any fish, because they are all in there. They might jump and flash or lie sedate. Just wait. Whistle a tune. Listen to the birds whistle back. Sit beside your pond with your fishing clothes on and bait your hook with patience. Sooner or later, you'll feel a tug. It might be soft. It might be hard. Set your hook and begin to reel in. You can't be sure if the tug is a fish or a shoe. But guess what? It doesn't matter. Either way, there's something to do. With a fish, you must decide, is it big enough to eat, or should I let it go? To find out if it's tasty, you need to know the species: trout, bass, salmon, pike, sunfish. Then you'll know, will it be bony and taste like mud, or clean and tender and sweet? If it's a shoe, try to catch another. And if they fit, put them on and walk somewhere. Anywhere, it doesn't matter. Then come back to your pond. If they don't fit, set them aside, find a smooth, flat stone, skip it in and watch the ripples spread and dwindle. Then sit beside your pond and cast again. Thank you.
Thank you so much. That was great. And I'll send an email with the anthology requisites so everybody can send in their fishing poem.
Excellent. Thank you.
Emmett, would you like to read?
Well, I would love to. I would love to. You know, everybody, it feels so apocalyptic now. And we've got wars all over the world, Ukraine, Middle East, people with the ability nations, the ability to destroy humanity. So I've been kind of thinking apocalyptic of late. A poem entitled, "The End is Coming." The end is coming. It will come unannounced. The sentinel guarding the door to humanity's existence, absent without leave. Humanity's end will come like a field mouse set upon by an overly eager eagle. At that moment, mercy will have run its course. No woman will have an opportunity to scream, nor an infant the comfort of parental arms. Neither any man cognitive recognition. The end has come. Wherefore, the parish priests will not be given to ringing church bells. Early warning sirens will not sound their clarion call. Prophets will not receive advance warning. Predilections of Mayans will have been scoffed at. Secular prophecies, fallacies. So then, I tell you now, even though you will not recall, I told you so. Thank you.
Stan, would you like to read?
Yeah, yes, I would. This is not my poem, but it's a poem that I like very much. It's called Bashert, and it's by a woman named Irene Klefish, who was born in the Warsaw Ghetto in 1941. Her parents got her into a Catholic orphanage with forged papers, and she stayed there the rest of the war. Later, she moved to New York City, where she taught English and Yiddish literature at Barnard College. This poem tries to create an understanding of, well, why did some people die? What happened? And why did some people survive? And the poem ends with the word Bashert, which means in a world going crazy, stark raving and mad, there is no sanity. There is no reason. These words are dedicated to those who died because they had no love and felt alone. because they were afraid to be alone, because they did not ask, because they were shunned, because they were sick and their bodies were weak, because they played it safe, because they had no connections, because they had no faith, because they did not belong. These words are dedicated to those who survived, because they did not draw attention to themselves, because they knew someone who knew someone, because they played it safe, because they were lucky, because they knew how to cut corners, because they did draw attention to themselves, because they did take risks, because they refused to give up, because they had faith and trusted in God. Basher. That's it. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Stan. It was very moving. Panina, would you like to read?
Yes, I'll read. So this poem is called Dream Journey, and these are the dreams that I've had since the war in Gaza, since October, in October. And it's in 3 parts. And it starts with an epigraph from Denise Levertor's, it's an excerpt of her poem, The Wings. This is the poem, part of the poem. What if, like a camel, it's pure energy I store and carry humped and heavy, not black, not the terror, stupidity of cold rage, or black only for being pent up there. And then I go into my poem. What if that stupidity of cold rage we've been safekeeping for a wrong done is keeping me, keeping you from the inheritance to take hands, to laugh, to sing, to strip ourselves naked underneath a blue, pretty sky and dance. And then I go into the dream part 1. The women shopaholics. There are about 8 of us. Paris Hilton is with us. Paris is always drunk to the point of passing out. Now she's lying inside a bin at the top of the aisle for hats and scarves. Why is she in my dream? She hires another high-class designer to design high heels that she'll never wear. She buys an island to store more and more heels, an island where it rains diamond dust. She's lost touch. She forgets what is under her nose. No longer can she remember her favorite pair. Are they the black ones with the large purple bows? How do we recognize seduction? What makes us numb? Like Paris, we buy another shade of lipstick, blush, fine leather purses, denim jackets that glitter, and of course, more shoes. I brag about how I could run in high heels, but that was in my 20s. What if the cause of addiction is the pent-up stupidity of cold rage? Stuffing piles of clothing inside drawers, closets. We have 1 torso, 2 feet, 2 legs, a mouth, but the next day the foot revs up the car. In reverse, there is the poet, Levitor, who is after a pure energy, hers. Part 2, in the same dream, I am cleaning house. As I clean, I think about the word solidarity, as in how crows preen each other, give and take only what they need. How they chase off raptors or falcons, how they sound the alarm for their clan in all bird clans. My house is my house. I'm not waking up under rubble. The ceaseless bombing is not happening in my city. The black walnut is rooted, songbirds sing. I live with a roof over my head. I am not one of the muzzled bodies wrapped tight in cellophane and blindfolded. Women are strong-legged, push, kick, bang with everything they got, hammering dents into the sides of the van, kicking in every direction like a horse. Nothing like it. Can you hear it? Unmistakable sound echoing into our homes. I must wake myself up on purpose. The next night, the black walnut tree where the Crow couple lived for years crashed through the roof directly above our bed. I am buried under the rubble. I open my eyes. I move my arms. I touch my face. No dust. I can breathe. It takes a while to comprehend that I am breathing. It was only a dream, a nightmare. Like the children and mothers in Palestine, I am not free. Sure, I can get out of bed and drive to the grocery store. I can make a list for dinner, a pasta salad, white onion, celery, parsley, artichoke hearts, and olives. I can boil eggs to perfection, running cold water over the warm, soft shells so the yolk doesn't green. I whisk olive oil and balsamic to dress the salad. I remember Susie, our guest for Poetry in the Kitchen. It was a program in Oakland where I worked and collaborated with storytellers and elders from all over the world. Susie brought photos and stories from the refugee camp. She brought olive oil, chicken, eggplant, and sumac, roasted the eggplant whole in the oven, and she spoke of the holy trees in her homeland of Palestine, how the invaders came with bulldozers, butchering olive orchards, uprooting thousands of years of rain, of sun, of moon harvest, of millstoning olives for oil, entire trunks of peace gouged. Susie mentioned our blood is olive oil. I eat the salad doused with the holy oil whisked with balsamic. I eat peace, but peace is missing. I am not free. This is my house. I am cleaning my house. We live in a 2-bedroom, 2-bath house with a study. I am after shine. I'm after shine. I sweep the floors, then I vacuum the floors, then I mop the floors, then I shine the floors. I spray, rub orange cleaner onto wood surfaces, tables, bookshelves. I dust the hutch. I wash the bedding. I make the bed. It sings, come, take cover and read. But when I read, nothing sinks in. I only know there is more dirt. I sweep and mop what is underneath the fridge, the washing machine, and dryer. The house should be clean by now. Could the stupidity of a cold rage be the problem for a cleaning addict? A small revelation becomes visible. After all these years, it wasn't my cold rage. What I carried on my back was his destruction. Stepfathers, it's common. I don't have to spell it out. I could not be a child. He would never be a father. I will fly like Denise. My angel wings will be free. Part 3, in the same dream. This all happened in the same dream. I'm walking down a long hallway to a large conference room where I'm with the indigenous people of Alaska. I've been told the North represents hardship, cleansing, where one goes to die in peace, where owls locate the spear of light in pitch black dark to sustain their owlets. Inside the conference, we are large in number, both men and women, all ages. I'm happy, giddy. One at a time, we ask questions. I wish I could remember just one question. Outside the large window, a white raptor majestically soars by like a golden eagle. The raptor flew carrying these dangly, long, white, delicate feathers, proudly conveying long ribbons of peace or surrender. It was a triumph in aerodynamics because the raptor was carrying these delicate, thin, fluttering, feathery flags on her beak and wings like they were part of her, in perfect balance and alignment. The elder says, look how she flies with those delicate feathers. They ride like a tail on a kite, high inside the sky current. We call her Kite Raptor. The dream goes on, but I think that's enough. But I mean, the part 3 is really it's just really kind of healing and powerful. But yeah, so thank you. And it's not really quite
I
finished.
think you've written a chapbook right there
It's a lot
in
longer.
one poem.
Thanks. Sorry.
I want to read the whole thing. Thank you. Norma, I'd love to have you read. You need to unmute.
Okay, Penina, is that anywhere to read yet?
Yeah, I'm still working on it. I mean, it's just long, you know, it's a dream, and you know how dreams are. You think they're short, but actually you start writing them down and you have a book, you know, so.
I'd like to read it
You
sometime.
definitely
thank
have a
you.
book, Penina.
Oh,
You have a book.
thank
Norma,
you.
I'd love it if you would read.
Okay, this is a new poem, Old Woman. This morning, she believes she is truly here. 9 months it's been, fitting into the rest of her life. Her tree, 3 stories up out the window, shivers off its leaves, giving itself to fall. A new war on screen, new grief, no tears. Feelings dry, cold, detached. Why war? They say 285 major wars since 1946. Her child self absorbed black and white news photos, imagining pain, darkness beneath the same rubble wreckage she sees today in color. Longing for friendship now, those eager to share warmth, depth, touch, truth, and stories. Her death of life begins now. Old friends leave the planet daily. Memorial services crowd the calendar beside doctor visits and other dates she'll forget. Today, fog is heavy and beautiful.
Thank you, Norma. Eleanor, did you bring something to read?
Why am I the first person with no, without a raised hand who gets asked?
Because I'm going to keep going until everybody reads.
I am so moved by what has recently been read. I'm hesitant to go back. I had a couple of old ones I was thinking of sharing. They're both seasonal, but I hope resonant in some way. One about a page and one quite tiny. This is the first one, Foothill Route, for Richard. These back roads, country highways, winding down from the Cascade foothills to the valley floor, I drive just often enough to know them, just rarely enough that almost every trip is vivid. Each writes itself on the palimpsest of past ones, scribing deeper and deeper the succession of switchbacks and straightaways, blurring scenes of sheep pasture, hayfield, fir forest, leaving some few oddly indelible impressions of season and weather and light. In February's rain and early dusk, how bleak this marginal farmland seems. In May, when hawthorns bloom in every thicket, how my heart rides the swells of their beauty. Most persistent of all, remembered every time I drive this foothill route, sight of its curves and slopes as I never saw them, as you beheld them the first time you took this back way home. One winter night of full moon and heavy hoarfrost, the road, as you described it to me, a shining swath through glistening hills, dazzling and treacherous. And this little one simply called December morning. Soon the sun will rise over the field, melting the frost it shines upon, until swath by swath, the glistening white gives way to damp green. Soon, along each branch of the trees lining the banks of the river beyond, the sun will melt the crystal that reflects and refracts its light. But now, as we wake and look out, the sky seems a vast, delicate shell, smooth and palest pink, curved over the earth. The leafless crowns of the maples and poplars flame rose gold, and the field spreads out its rough pelt, blue-white as ermine in moonlight.
Thank you, Eleanor. Leslie, is that your name?
No, my name is James. I'm Leslie's husband.
James, I'd love to
couldn't
hear
join
you
us
read.
this evening. She could not join us this evening.
Okay,
And Eleanor, that poem you read, both of them, they reflect nature so beautifully, and I really am touched by that. So it was really, thank you for that, for sharing that. This poem I wrote about almost 2 years ago, and this came out of some reflections I had at a meeting I had with my men's group, where we were discussing some things about illusion, and particularly about how illusionism has this idea that the physical world or the material world is an immaterial product of the senses. And so I thought about this for a while, and I had some really deep questions. And so this poem is all questions. And in my life, I've been lately trying to live the questions instead of trying to come up with answers. So this is a poem, a short poem reflecting this question of mine. It's titled Illusionism's Folly. Where is the dreamer? Who dreams the dream? What is perceived by the perceiving? Which reality is not what it seems? Who is the illusion deceiving? What is the shadow that lurks in the midst of memory, racing from one neuron and on to the next, creating such false imagery? Where is the one who navigates the space and time that's real? The one who solemnly navigates what senses objectively feel? Where is the place that lies beyond thought, beyond feeling and what is desired? Where is the realm so desperately sought when the synapses no longer fire and all that is gained lies deep in a grave or is consumed on a ceremonial pyre? Where is the light that guides the way, to the city of infinite bliss. Shadows grow long in this place of decay. How has it come to this?
Thank you so much.
Thank you for allowing me to share that.
Does anyone, Norma, would you like to, you're muted, but,
Yes.
oh, no.
Could I
you're
read
good.
one more? This is a Christmas poem that I try to get out every Christmas.
Okay,
Can I do
let's
that?
hear it. And then I'll read a poem and then I think we're all done.
Christmas. In the late 1980s, when I wrote poetry, I made imaginary dialogues with Jesus. He says he's exhausted. He says he feels used. He thinks he's sometimes used as an excuse for people to misbehave. He says he isn't frozen in time or in the stories people wrote about him long ago. He says he's alive, sad, tired, misunderstood, and disappointed because the world doesn't seem to reflect his teachings. He says he speaks to us all the time, trying to help us appreciate and love ourselves and our lives so that we can appreciate each other, appreciate and love each other and all life around us. He notices we're too busy to listen. He's sorry that his birthday is used to boost the economy. He would like his birthday to remind us of our appreciation for life. He says he wants to rest. I'm imagining this Christmas as a time to give Jesus the gift of rest-filled peace.
It looks like we have two more readers. Fran, would you like to read? Your hand is up next.
Yeah. I have a way of going and asking people if I could write poetry for them. I recently ran an errand at the Washington Square Mall, and I asked a few people if I could write for them. Jacob, who sells cosmetics, asked me to write about humanity. So this is the poem. We're all in it together. As stars pass us by, they scream in greeting, music in motion, our chords, our time. Searching for rhythm, we know where to look. Beneath our hearts, in the molecules we breathe. Breathing together, one with the other. Time is our ally, emotion our friend. We fight with the universe, unsure of our footing, but spirit soon shows us how to stand straight and true. Being together, breaking apart, lonely, forgiven, at once we are whole. Thank you.
Thank you, Fran. Lovely. Shirley, would you like to read?
Yes, I would. Can you hear me okay? Alrighty. It's called Freedom. The spirit of freedom drifts from yes to no, like a feather that floats on the fragrant breezes, not knowing direction, nor wish, nor life, nor death, as it slowly descends, softly, unguarded, to find his destiny in the moment. Thank you.
Lovely. Kelly, would you like to read?
Yes, thank you. I love the variety of all the readings. Thank you, everyone. I wanted to read a darker poem called A Nod to Death. Actually, it's not really so dark, but the topic is, but I don't want to end on that. Is there? And I think I'm the last one, so I think I'm going to read.
I've got a love poem after this, so You'll be fine. You can read whatever you want.
Okay, good. Okay. A nod to death. The way we think about dying doesn't seem thought out. It is how we meet it that matters most. Creatures of fertile minds, why the lean possibilities? The ivy strangling us from speaking. We grapple with the theory of nothing. The lights go out. That's it. I want an open door with a yellow light, drawing me to beyond my knowing. Damp and wet, enclosed too long inside the body, my spirit may head south, bask in the sun of a high plateau. I'll be ready if the door is close, lying in yoga's last pose, where I breathe slowly, inhale, exhale, taking the time to find the place of peace. Loosen my grip, let go. I see it's a good way to die. See, I need more practice. But no, absolutely not. Will I trade my last few days fighting the fight with death, nor in my final hour start the fatal gasping in a struggle with my fears.
I don't think we need to practice death. I think it'll just come naturally.
Okay, that'd be good.
I think it will come naturally.
Yeah.
I'll read my love poem. I thought of you as a river running through me, my heart prone yet kinetic. Stubbornly lively you were, all snowmelt and undertow, shards of ice swirling in crisp eddies, scuffing the banks, the way water is playful in glints of sunlight. A ceremony, ritualistic, no longer icy, warming and candlelit, marriage in the air. Gale force winds not enough to snuff our small flame. The sun rested on the opposite shore. No future mountains loomed on the horizon. Our river braided through placid meadows, lark song, grasshopper whir. Like otters, we skimmed the current with each breaststroke, reach and swim until the future is past. Years swirled into seasons, decades into years. For half a century and then some, we surfed rich water, never stopping to consider how many moments we examined, cherished, or squandered. The current sped onward, your strong hand on my cheek, my waist, my thigh, your sure arms lifting my veil, my gown, 2 sons, a daughter to the sky. Thank you. Well, everybody, that was a wonderful evening. Thank you all. Thank you to our 2 wonderful poets, Anne and Steve. That was just fantastic. If you want to unmute yourselves and say good night, that would be wonderful.
Good night. That would be wonderful.
Good night. That would be
Good night,
wonderful.
Steve.
Good night, everybody.
Thank
Great
you.
to see
Thank you for
everybody.
everyone.
Thank you.
You're all wonderful.
Thank
Thank
you.
you,
Thank
everyone.
you.
Great to see
Thank
you
you,
all.
Steve and Anne.
Have a
They're
happy
very
holiday.
beautiful readers. Yeah.
Thank
Happy
you,
holidays,
Dale.
everyone.
Yes.
Adios.
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 Thank you so much.